First News with Keeler in the morning on WIBX and WIBX950.com.
All right, Andrew, I'll let you intro the background here on this story as you covered it yesterday.
So Father Joe Salerno announced to his congregation on Sunday that there would be a unification of the two parishes of Our Lady of the Rosary and Our Lady of Lourdes, and the diocesan bishop Douglas Lucia made it official via an announcement yesterday.
Father Joe is on the line right now. Father Joe Salerno, good morning.
Good morning. How are all of you?
Great. Great to hear from you. And let's talk about this. And I know these are always sensitive issues because there are, in each of these individual churches, like, for instance, Lady of Lourdes. My wife and I were married more than 20 years ago at Lady of Lourdes. And I think you have families that have weddings, wedding history and funeral history and Saturday and Sunday history. It becomes a sensitive issue for everyone. So I'm assuming that's what you're dealing with right now.
Yes, in some senses, yes, and in other senses, no. We've been involved in a process of linking, what we have called linking our two parishes. And what we meant by that was that the same set of clergy were serving both parish communities. And that's primarily because of a shortage of clergy, et cetera. But more and more, as we look into the future, while we have great respect for our past and for all that has been done and celebrated at both individual communities, for a number of reasons, and again, clergy shortage just being one factor driving this unification, we felt it was time to bring these two parish communities together. Right now, I am the only priest serving both parish communities.
Wow!
So it's a challenge.
Yeah.
But I want to reassure people we're not closing any church. So weddings and funerals and baptisms all will continue to take place in both parish campuses. We'll do our best to respect the history of the past, but we want to create a history for the future as well. So we're going to do our best. And it isn't just about clergy. There are so many lay people who are giving up their time and their talent and their treasure to make these communities viable.
Yeah.
And now we're going to have a new name. It's going to be Mary, the Mother of Our Savior Parish. The buildings will remain the same in terms of their technical and official names. It will always be Lourdes. It will always be Rosary as a building. But the community that gathers there will now be known as Mary, Mother of Our Savior Parish.
All right.
Father,
interesting.
Can I ask you about the new name? I was thinking about this yesterday. Growing up, I grew up in East Utica. We had St. Agnes, we had St. Anthony. Then there was St. Anne, St. Mark, St. Paul, St. Peter. There was always Our Lady of Lourdes and Holy Trinity, but everything was Saint this one, Saint, and it was short and easy and to the point. No, I'm sorry.
I'm glad you're laying it out with Father Salerno.
I'm sorry.
Today.
When I thought about this, I thought that there could be some confusion. Can you explain? Obviously, I think we know the Mother of Our Savior, Mary. We know where that comes from. But can you talk about? There's almost an evolution in names as I see some churches in communities across New York coming together. Do you have any thoughts on that?
Are you asking why the name?
Well, not so much. Well, sure. Okay, let's go there. Why the name?
And if I can say, and it's possible that these names of the parishes were always like this. I don't know the answer to that, but I know that Father Joe Salerno. Sorry, Father.
That's okay. I like Father Sean. I know him as well.
We just have him on so often that. But Father Joe, can you dig into this Jeff's question here?
Okay. Well, in trying to unify two communities, the process is to give the new community a new name. We asked our parishioners who gathered and who were worshiping on a regular basis to submit to us their suggestions for a new name. We had probably well over 100 suggestions.
Wow.
We boiled it down to 3 that we presented to our bishop, and ultimately it was the bishop's decision. I think he wanted to honor the history of both parishes, so he chose a name that still honored the mother of Jesus, the mother of our Savior. That was his preference for a name, and the way things work in the Catholic Church, it really was the bishop's decision as to what the name would be.
Gotcha.
And so he wrote a letter to us, and I don't have it in front of me, but he expressed that this new title would not only honor Mary, but would say something about her son Christ as our Savior. And it brings and respects both the traditions of both parish communities. Does that help a little bit?
It does.
It's a little less short, but it's to the point still.
Yeah, no, and I apologize if the question came along wrong. I just remember, at so many churches it was saying, and I ran down the list. This one is unique, though.
That will probably be just saying in the long run, Mother of our Savior Parish.
Right.
Sure.
Something like that.
I have a few comments. Julie saying, won't the church buildings themselves be their own individual names? And you've addressed that. They will be. It'll still be. That will remain the same.
They'll retain their original names, and that's, I think, possibly for legal purposes, et cetera, bequests left to a church, et cetera, all of that, and because of history.
Right.
Father Joe, can you explain why the unification from a standpoint of administratively, budgetary reasons? We just had a pandemic. Does that have at all an impact on this decision, or did that have an impact on this decision?
Of course. There's no one factor driving this. There are numerous factors driving this, and among them is the experience of COVID. Okay, no doubt about it. The experience of trying to be present to people. I know right now, all of our weekday services, as well as any, again, baptisms, weddings, or funerals, are held at the campus of Our Lady of Lourdes, of Our Lady of the Rosary. But on Sunday, when it came to worship, I had to make a hard choice. I tried to choose the location that could serve as many people as possible while still keeping us safe. For months, we had to sit 6 feet apart from each other and wear masks. So weekend services were at Lourdes, weekday services, and the weddings, funerals, and baptisms of members who belonged to Rosary took place there. But financial purposes, number of people worshiping, clergy shortage, et cetera, all of it factored in. And what's happening in the rest of our diocese factoring in. We have 2 priests serving 6 parish communities right now in the Oneida area. 5 parishes were brought together up in Oswego to make one new parish. It's happening in many places, and not just between Lourdes and Rosary. If you go back to the east side, when you named all those parish communities, it's now Mount Carmel Blessed Sacrament, St. Anthony, St. Agnes, Holy Trinity absorbed St. Stanislaus, St. Paul's in Whitesboro absorbed St. Stephen's and St. Anne's in Whitesboro. This isn't the first time.
Yeah.
And it will, unfortunately, probably continue a little bit into the future.
And it is a bit of a sad story in that the number of people attending Mass and churches throughout the area and throughout the country has decreased over the years. And there was a time when these churches were bustling at the seams here. That is kind of a sad state of where we are in the country right now.
It is, in some senses, culturally. Less people are worshiping than in the past. But again, if we look at the population of our immediate area,
that's a good point. Yep.
There are far less Catholics present today than there were in the past. We've been graced to have many other religions and cultures join us. We have not only Catholics and Protestants, which has been our mainstay, but we have the Jewish community is not suffering the same thing, but going through the same transition.
Yeah.
We now have Muslims. We have at least 3 to 4, 3 mosques in our area. We have Buddhist temples in our area. So our population is shifting too. And there isn't the need for all the Catholic churches that we once had and needed.
Well, if you go back 50 years, 60 years, our population was over 100,000 people.
Mm-hmm.
Right? So that in itself. One more thing, because this is so unique, and this conversation with you is very unique in that it's not something we normally speak with you about. You, I know, as someone, whether it be a mass or a funeral, oftentimes a very high-profile funeral in the area, you're the person that makes people feel better, and you have such a great way of getting a message across that I think is very helpful. But now we're talking about business here, and that's the part of this that we normally don't hear from you or even from the church. But these are large buildings. I can't imagine the cost just to heat a church. So there's a lot there in a very difficult time as we've just gone through a pandemic.
Correct. This past year to 18 months has been, as we all know, been difficult for everybody.
Yeah.
Churches included. It's one of the downsides of being a pastor is when you walk into the building, a building that you're not accustomed to, that you look up and you say, what does it cost to heat and light this building?
Yeah.
I just wonder, or at least that happens to me. But that's the practical side of things. Yeah, you have to take many factors into consideration.
Yeah. Do they have double pane stained glass windows? You keep the cold.
Maybe call New York Sash.
I grew up in the Valley and spent some time at St. Mary's in Little Falls, and just a massive church for a small city like the size of Little Falls to be able to support. I cannot imagine what it costs to heat that building. Mm-hmm. And a beautiful building, as all these churches are.
Resemble the faith of the people who built them and the sacrifices they were willing to make to sustain them.
Yeah.
But energy costs have greatly changed. Maintenance costs have greatly changed, et cetera, et cetera.
But the takeaway here is neither church, neither building will be closing.
Neither building will be closing, at least right now. I can't guarantee that forever, but right now that's not in the plan or in the cards. Both campuses will remain open.
All right, Father, thank you so much for the
what about, just one more thing. There's a great question from Paul. What about the bazaar?
Oh, thank you for reminding me of that. We are going to have the bazaar this year, which usually takes place at the end of August. It'll be the 26th, the 27th, and the 28th. It'll be a bit of a modified form of bazaar, but we feel it's important that we bring people together in community at this point. So I hope on Thursday, Friday, and Saturday, the 26th, 7th, and 8th, that I'll see many people join us at our annual bazaar on the campus of Our Lady of Lourdes.
All right, certainly something we've all come to expect and depend on each year. And, of course, coming off this last year, it just these things didn't happen. So it's good to have those back. Father Joe Salerno, thank you so much for the time.
Thank you so much.
All right, have a great day.
God bless.
Thanks
Bye-bye.
so much. Father Joe.
It's always nice to speak with him. I will say I ran off all the saints in the church names, and I didn't mention my own parish as a child, St. Stanislaus in East Utica, of course. He mentioned that when he talked about the merger with Holy Trinity. And I also wanted to mention, consider this. Now, I went to St. Agnes in East Utica until it closed when I was in 5th grade. Then it was either, because a lot of the Catholic schools, not the churches, Catholic schools at that time closed. So it was either you went to Holy Trinity or to Lourdes. And I ended up going to Lourdes. And I will tell you, we had 2 priests who interacted with the community, over at Lourdes at the time. And it was Father Joe Salerno and Father Sean.
Yeah.
And this is why I've turned out to be such a great person, I think.
I believe it's those two.
I'm up for sainthood because of them.
Yeah. And I have to say that Father Joe does such an amazing job when during a very difficult time, when there's a sad story, and especially as you can remember the high-profile funerals in the area.
Yes,
where maybe a police officer has lost his life. There's just something about Father Joe that he's able to make you walk out of there and feel better.
Yeah, and that is why he has for so long been the chaplain for the Utica and Utica Fire and Police Departments, because he just has that way about him. Of course, most notably, he presided over Thomas Lindsay's funeral, and I believe Officer Coors as well.
Among others in the area, sadly.